Hope everyone is fine. Today I want to kind of take you back and go through the whole process of how I came to getting this polytunnel. You know, all the different stages, from the first stages of planning right through to now to the completion. So come with me. I think it all started with the realisation that the polytunnel I was using was looking a little bit on the old side. You know, I think we probably spent more money now on tape holding it together, you know, and look at this there, brick there to chalk it up. You know, it was one of them things that it was just the older it got, the more little bits I had to do to kind of keep it going. You know, I mean, it's just... For a polytunnel, it was at its end of time. You know, ideally, it was a great polytunnel. I would have loved to have kept it, but it just was slowly going. I mean, if you look on this side now, there's a huge rip, you know, that went the whole length of the polytunnel. And that's probably, in one respect, stopped it blowing away. You know, it was a great polytunnel, but it came to its end. Now, I had to really think about the size of it and the dimensions, and I'm realising for what I want, I would have to probably change the dynamics of the garden and do a lot more than what I realised. You know, but I guess at that time I didn't realise just how much work was involved. You know, I was wanting a bigger polytunnel. You know, the main thing was a tall tunnel, but I realised that second hut there would have to go. You know, so it was just basically, you know, starting, and I think I started sometime in October, somewhere around there, but I had to get rid of everything. Now, this sweet corn was the first I'd planted. I'd never done sweet corn before, and it was a great success. Now, it looks like I'm pulling out them quite early, but it had some great crops from the sweet corn, and what was left was really just like little ones that might not have developed before the season finished, you know, so it was just to get rid of it. Now, this is, you know, even before the kind of the build and everything, this was in itself just a huge job, just transferring everything from one hut into that bigger hut. And that was the realisation that it was just like, this is going to be a way more than what I'm you know, anticipating. It was just lots of prep work. You know, I mentioned this before on the show that I'm not really good at prepping for painting and everything. I was just like to get on with the job, and this one was that. You know, it was certainly to get to the position to start building the polytunnel. You know, I had to kind of clean out all this, and I probably would have left these tomatoes in a little bit longer as well. But all this had to come out as well. So, in the end, the all came out, and I got a great crop from the tomatoes, and I froze everything, and even to this day we're still having, you know, the frozen tomatoes. But it was a job that would have probably been a little bit later in the year, you know. So you can see the actual size of the polytunnel, you know. And like I say, I was always banging my head on the blue pipes there. It was never ideally, you know, placed for me, you know, or the size for it, and the curves on the side didn't allow for anything spectacular to grow. And if you're putting, you know, your tomato plants using canes, inevitably they went through the ceiling, you know. So I had to just start pulling everything out, clearing everything out, and those benches as well, they had to come out. You know, I had to kind of pull them to bits and just empty everything. Now, this is when I had to get Dan up, you know, my daughter's boyfriend, and we tackled, you know, pulling down this hut. Now, ideally, we would have liked to have took it down in, you know, sections, but it was solidly built. Do you know what I mean? It was a damn good shed, and it wasn't given up easy. It was one of them jobs where it was like harder than what we thought it would have been. You know, there was lots of hitting with toffee hammers, as you can see. Yes, we might should have had bigger hammers, but eventually, you know, we got it down, and it was just, again, all this work. It was. I was seeing nothing at the beginning of, you know, anywhere getting near to putting up a polytunnel. So there we go. we can see, you know, and you can see the state of the polytunnel as well, you know. I mean, it wasn't a pretty sight. So there we go, that's what I'm left with now. I've got to kind of really take down this polytunnel, and, you know, taking it down, it wasn't that bad. You know, you can see the state of the holes, you know, all them little marks on it are holes where canes have popped through. So again, got the toffee hammer out, and then it's you know, it's taking it down. That's what, and it was a strange feeling, to be quite honest. You know, it's really strange, especially doing something like that. There's no coming back from that once that first cut's made, you know. And I still was, you know, I was kind of nervous of putting up this new, and I've never put up a new polytunnel. So like when this, you know, I'm pulling this down, I'm even to myself thinking, well, what happens if it doesn't work? You know, there was lots of trepidation that I never mentioned on the show, you know. Putting up a polytunnel, yeah, I can put up like a homemade one, but like a proper bought one, I was all anxious. But, you know, and I was using a drone as well to get some great shots of, you know, taking it to bits, and I was quite, you know, quite pleased with the camera work on there, just so you can get a different perspective. You know, it was all just done by like a single drone, just doing it, you know. But, so there we go. It's kind of all taken down, and even watching this now, it's quite a strange, you know, it's quite a strange thing. So I bought myself a new polytunnel, yes, and I went to Direct Plants, and it's probably finished, you know, by the time you're watching this. It was till the end of January you could get 10% off. So I got the polytunnel delivered. And I did a little unboxing because it was just interesting, I think, to find out, you know, what you get with a polytunnel. Do you know what I mean? You do get lots of fittings, and as you can see, they're big, heavy, you know, metal structure, what it is. So, you know, the heavier and the harder it is, that's what you want. Then I had to transport it up, and there was only me that day. And it was just biting into my shoulders, you know, and I'm carrying a camera there as well. You know, and I didn't realise as well, you know, there was still more work to be done. You know, I'm moving flagstones. So that's the kind of the aerial shot, and this was my plan. You know, we had to kind of, when we actually building it, I got Dan up again, and we wanted, you know, this is what I was doing. We had to put the four corners in, and then we had to measure up, you know, diagonally, and then we'd get to the stage where we can kind of put in these middle posts as well. So every 6 foot you put in a middle post, and that was, you know, that was the instructions you got off Direct Plants, and we kind of stuck to that as best we can. It also mentioned, you know, set everything out and go through it a few times. So that's what we did. I was lucky enough to have that tray, and we just set things out, and away we went. And again, you know, Dan's never built a polytunnel. We've just read the instructions, took our time, and it's, you know, it went up, and it went up without, you know, for two people that had never done it before, it went up no problem. Again, if you hadn't read the instructions, there was lots of things that you could have, you know, made mistakes with, and it would have been a harder job. You had to go back, you know, you had to get all your fittings on your pipes before you put them up and join them like Dan's doing there now. If you didn't, you'd have to take all these to bits, slide these joints back on, these like ring joints on to set up the polytunnel, you know. And again, using the drone, got some great aerial shots from that, and it was careful, Dan, careful. You best just get off that ladder, lad. You know, it was great to see it happen, because that was the night before this. You know, I was really anxious again. I know it sounds strange being anxious about just putting up a polytunnel, but it's, you know, it was one of them things. And then this is my obsession, cement it in, get it cemented. I don't want it, you know, I don't want this polytunnel going to Kansas and blown away. So after the whole thing, and after the door struts were put on as well, I just cemented, you know. I think I got about 6 to 8 bags of concrete post and went in. And at that stage there, I'm really quite proud of myself. Not proud of myself, more just like relieved, and, you know, it's done. You know, our stage 1's done. Stage 2 was way more stressful. Don't get us wrong, this was as stressful as probably I've been with putting up the polytunnel. That's my son there, Reed, and Dan's in the middle, and I'm on the end. And this is, I guess, in a way, make or break. If you kind of rip your polythene You can put little holes in it, that's not a problem. You just use the tape that's provided and you cover the holes up. But if it was ripped, you kind of basically got to go and buy yourself a new bit of plastic if you've got a big rip in it. So again, the night before was stress, sleep deprived time. But we just, I'd watched Liz's video on this, and I watched how Liz did it, Liz Zorab. And we just, again, took our time and it just came together. Do you know what I mean? It was a nice day. I think the temperature was round about 12. Now, this was a time when I was worried about the temperature as well, because anything round about 5 would have been too cold for the plastic and it wouldn't have been able to stretch very good. Then come the hot weather, or the warmer weather, it would have slackened off and it would have meant you might have to do it again, so that was another issue, but I wanted to get it done just so it's done. And there you can see, please the sponge, because it was just such an immense space for me, how big it is. And you can see there, footprint wise, it doesn't look that different from the one we had, but just immense difference in height. Now I got a lot of comments about this. I put the flagstones sideways on, and I'm so glad I have, even to this day. Then I didn't decide to go and flag the whole of round the beds. I'd started, so I might as well finish it. Now I just thought, this is actually done this morning there. I popped up just to give it a little spruce around, I think I'm a very messy builder, odd job man there. And it's only when everything's cleared down and sorted that I realise just what a mess I've made. So it was always my intention to go around and actually paint these beds up again, sometime this year. But I thought, just with now, kind of finishing off, give it a coat now, and then it's really kind of done. It's all sitting pretty ready for this 2020 growing season. And I think this is probably one of the first times for a long, long time that I've actually been able to, physically been able to brush the paths. I've had flagstones on there, and it was just nice to just give it, that kind of final tickle clean, that once it's finished. So there we go. This is, what it looks like now. That's all the flagstones in, and it's strange how you start off, and by the time I've finished the flagstones, how not good I've become, but my first efforts aren't as good as my last efforts. And again, the polytunnel, the size is 18 foot by 14, which is basically, actually it's a little bit bigger than the last footprint, but so much more taller. So we might actually get some vegetables out of this polytunnel. Look after yourself. Take good care.